Thank you for tuning in to the Stories That Bind Us. We host open and honest conversations about personal experiences which can include sensitive topics such as identity, emotional struggles, mental health, and life challenges. Some of these discussions may be sensitive or difficult for certain viewers. This content is intended to encourage reflection, growth, and meaningful dialogue. So instead of cutting or censoring our episodes, we present them in their entirety. Thank you for being here and engaging with these important conversations. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Stories That Bind Us, where we have conversations that we don't have enough of anymore. Real conversations about the real things that are going on and some of those things that keep us up at night, or some of the things that are just challenging us, which are also a lot of the things that we grow from and can learn from each other. So today, I want to welcome my good friend and someone I'm very interested in having this conversation with, Vern Waters.
Thanks, Jim. It's nice to be here.
Thanks for being here, Vern. So we usually sit down and just have a conversation that we would have after having a nice meal. We just share a meal, have a meal, and have that time to just sit down and talk about what's going on. And not the fluff and not the superficial, but really get down into the things that we really care about and the things that keep us up, the things that get us up in the morning when we're going through hard times. Just the real conversations that are most meaningful. And you and I have had some conversations in the past, and we've been talking today a bit too. And it'd be nice to share some of those things that you've learned and some of the things that you've experienced that have helped you grow with folks that might be encouraged or inspired by your journey and your story. Is that something you're willing to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Awesome. Well, let's just talk about some of the things that you've had to deal with that have, like, most people have not experienced and that have taught you some of the most insightful and impactful lessons that you've gone through. When we're kind of talking about those things that have done that, when we're talking about those events in your life or things that have come up, what comes to mind? Like, what stands out that you've learned the most from or have helped you grow, inspire you, challenge you? What kind of stands out?
Well, for me, it's been having kidney disease. I've had this disease since I was 4 years old, is when I was first diagnosed with kidney disease, and I've been fighting it from the age of 4 until today at 50.
And yesterday was your birthday.
Yesterday was my birthday.
That's exciting. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
And no matter when we're watching this, we won't know exactly when the birthday was, but we'll just say it was yesterday, and I'm grateful I get to have this opportunity to talk with you today. So talk about what that looked like growing up. 4 years old, most kids are just getting ready for kindergarten. They're finishing preschool. They might be learning how to ride a bike or skate. They're going through a lot of different things in their growth. What were you experiencing at 4 when you get this diagnosis? What did that look like?
Well, when I was 4, I didn't really understand. All I knew was that I was sick, because at 4, they figured out what was wrong. There was 2 years before that I was sick that they couldn't figure it out. So they would give me antibiotics because I'd be getting infections and they wouldn't know where the infection was. And then at some point, a doctor figured out that it was my kidney that was infected. And it was not just that it was infected, it was really small, and the ureter that goes from the kidney to the bladder was destroyed by the infection. So I basically lost a kidney when I was 4 years old. I lost the complete use of that kidney.
Wow. So how did that impact you physically? Did that limit? I mean, I'm trying not to be ignorant, but I have no idea how that would have affected you at a 4-year-old, because you have 2 kidneys, one's gone. How does that impact you as a 4-year-old? Your health, what did that cause?
So when I was 4, actually, I started feeling better after the surgery. And I was good until I was in my mid-20s. Now, the doctor told my mom when I was 4 that it's probably in my mid-20s I was going to need to have a kidney transplant. And so I was supposed to not do dangerous things like sports and stuff like that, but I ended up playing sports all of my life until I got out of high school. It really didn't affect me. The way I grew up was good. It's just the illness started taking effect when I was in my mid to late 20s is when I really started to feel the effects of it. And I was in denial as to what was happening. And so I kept putting stuff off, and I knew something was going on, but just wasn't really willing to face my own mortality, I guess. Like that something could be wrong that could kill me.
So you grow up, you go through it, you get better from the surgery so you can at least have more of a normal childhood. Get through high school, get to do a lot of the things that most people get to do with sports, get to experience all of that. And then you fast forward a little bit into your 20s, you're denying that you have this condition that is causing the problems that's causing. And then what do? What woke you up, or what changed that you had to face it?
Well, I was coming home from work one day. I'm driving home from Chandler going into Maricopa, and I got this really intense headache. And I was probably, I was 35 years old. Actually, I mixed up my facts a little bit.
You're good.
So I was working for a company called DHL, and I got laid off. And so then I was heading home, couldn't find a job, and I got a job as a prison guard. But I had to take a physical. So I go in, I do all of my stuff, take my physical, and I have to do a urinalysis, and I think they're checking for drugs. So I'm not, and I didn't even think about my kidney. Honestly, I didn't think about my kidney at all. And I just remember this girl took the little stick and she dipped it in the cup and pulled it out, and it went bright red. And I'm like, I didn't do any drugs. Like, what is happening here? And so she took another stick, dipped it in, pulled it out, bright red. And she's like, I'll be right back. Now, mind you, I'm in a medical office, but there's police and everything else that are around. So she goes back. I'm thinking she's coming back with a police officer. Like, I don't know what's happened. But they come back in with a doctor, and he goes, do you feel okay? And I'm like, yeah, I feel fine. I feel good. He's like, well, something's really wrong. And I'm like, now the panic kind of sets in. Like, what do you mean something's wrong? Mm-hmm. He's like, well, you've got 6 times the amount of protein in your urine that you should have. You need to get to a doctor like right now, like today. And I'm like, okay. So I go home, call the doctor, because I'm pretty scared at this point. I call the doctor, and they get me in right away over in Maricopa. A doctor's office did. And he's like, yeah, your blood pressure is 135/90. Let's do some more blood tests. They did the blood test. They come back, like, you got 35% kidney function. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, we've caught this early. We can probably treat it. They sent me to a kidney doctor. Went to that kidney doctor. And in the meantime, I found another job working for a place called Med Impact, which is a pharmacy company. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going back to the doctor because I don't want to lose this job, and I'm okay. So go for that. That was, I don't remember the years, but I was like in my early 30s. Now I'm 39. I've left that job. I'm working for Cranial Technologies, and I'm driving home, and I've got this severe headache. I can't figure out what's going on. It's so bad that the next day I can't go to work. And my dad was living with me at the time, and he decided he's going to take me to the doctor. I called the doctor. They got me in, and I'm like, you know what? I just got a really bad headache. I need some pain medication. And she's like, well, let's do a little bit more research than that and find out. The next day, she calls me. I'm feeling better because they gave me some medication which took away the headache. I'm in Bash's parking lot, and she called me. She's like, where are you at? And I'm like, I'm at Bash's. Why? What's going on? And she's like, well, we need you to call an ambulance to get yourself to the hospital. And I'm like, why? What's going on? She's like, you don't have enough calcium in your blood to keep your heart pumping. Like, you're going to have a heart attack at any moment. So you need to get to a hospital, like, right now. So, being the rough and tough man that I am, I wasn't about to pay $350 deductible for an ambulance. I had a buddy take me to the hospital. Actually, our pastor took me to the hospital, got there, and I had 4% kidney function. And amazingly, at 4% kidney function, I still did not have to do dialysis. I was sick. I knew that I was sick. Like, in the middle of the night, I was waking up, my back was cramping, my legs were cramping, I was having trouble walking. It was just a lot of pain, but I just didn't want to face that I was sick. It was maybe it's a pride thing, maybe it's I'm the man of my house type of thing. I can take care of my family, and I can't do that if I'm sick.
Right. Wow, that's intense. So what'd they have to do? You got to the hospital, you get your ride instead of taking the ambulance like they told you to. You get your ride, you get there, you find out you're at 4%, and then what happens?
So then they got me into a doctor's office called Arizona Kidney Disease and Hypertension. It is a medical office where they deal with A, hypertension, and B, they deal with kidney disease. So the biggest concern was my blood pressure. I believe it was 263 over 135.
Very
when I was in the hospital, yeah. And they gave me medication to get that down. And then they got me into, basically right away, they got me into the Mayo Clinic to get, because I was so young. They're like, there's no tests for you to do. You're in kidney failure. Let's get you to the Mayo Clinic. That was I got released from the hospital on October 31st of 2014. And on December 31st of 2014, I was in Mayo Clinic that morning. And they started doing all the testing and cleared me for, I think 9 days later, I was cleared for a kidney transplant.
Wow. So that was a lot that happened in that 2-month span, where you just have a headache and feel like you need some medication, and you find out that what you've been avoiding and wanting to avoid has now caught up. Yeah. And now you have to face it.
Yep.
And so you talked about your pastor gave you a ride. What part did that play? Did he have a voice in what was going on? What'd you do to cope? Because that's a lot to now address and have to work through.
Well, I mean, the only reason that I really wanted my pastor there was because my wife was going to be there. If I passed away, I didn't want her to be alone.
That speaks a lot to the kind of guy you are, Vern, that even in the middle of you going through what could have been your kind of final moments here and the final breaths you would be possibly taking, you want him to come and take you so that he can be there to comfort your wife in case anything goes wrong. And that speaks volumes about who you are, what kind of guy you are. And that's the kind of conversation that's important for us to be able to have with folks that are going through similar challenges or heartache and facing things, because our loved ones do matter. And when it's all said and done, they're the ones that are going to be left, as you know.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing that. And I know that's hard. And I know that's the kind of thing that's the most meaningful with people that have a story, is when we're in the middle of those moments and those fears and those struggles, we don't think other people know what it feels like.
Right.
And we don't think that they understand, because we're in such a fast-paced world and we're caught up with so many different distractions, that the things that really matter the most are these conversations and these connections, because we all go through these moments where it rocks our world and our faith and our humanity. So I appreciate you being willing to go there and share that. Because I know at those moments when I'm broken and just I've had my own things that I've had to work through, what meant the most to me in those moments was that someone did care and that they could understand and that they could join me in that place and not have the right thing to say, Vern, because I don't have the right thing to say. And I'm sure other people have always struggled with knowing what to say when you tell your story or when they get to know more about you, because we don't have those right words all the time. But to me, and you can let me know your perspective, it's not always about the right words. It's just about having somebody that cares enough to go through it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely the truth. I just, I wanted my wife with me because she's my rock. She's been through a lot with me. We've seen some really like dark times, not dark times that we brought upon ourselves, but just we've been through a lot together. And those trials and tribulations, they bind you together. They I have a son that is disabled. And, when she was 6 months pregnant with him, maybe a little bit less, we got a phone call from the doctor saying that he probably wasn't going to survive for 90 days when he was born. And basically they said, we can't tell you what to do, but we recommend that you terminate the pregnancy, but you can't do it here because it's St. Joseph Hospital. But like, this is going to be a burden for the rest of your life. And she broke down and she's like, I can't do that. I'm like, you don't have to do that. We don't believe in that. We're going to walk together. We're going to do the right thing. And we're going to, our faith will be tested. And at the end, we will overcome. And we have. I mean, we have a beautiful son that's very happy. He's got, he's disabled. He can't talk, but he's happy and full of love, and we love him. And like I just said, there's so many things in life that happen that with adversity, you have to overcome. You have to overcome. You have to fight. You can't give in, and you just have to be strong. And that was one that I did not want to leave her alone with 4 kids, and I felt stupid because I hadn't taken care of myself. When you're like, she's only able to be in the hospital with me for a couple of hours. She had to go home back to our kids. And, I was like, man, I have really messed up without intending to mess up, because I've left this poor woman. I don't have any life insurance because I can't get it because I only got 1 kidney. And what is she going to do? And I didn't know if I was on the way to the hospital. I didn't know if I was going to live through the night based on what they were telling me on the phone. It was very, very scary because she's like, the way the doctor said it was Mr. Waters. Because at first, I'm like, I'm okay. I don't need to go to the doctor. She's like, Mr. Waters, your heart is going to stop. You need to go to the, and that for some reason, when she said Mr. Waters, I knew it was very serious, because most times doctors don't talk to you that way. At least not to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad she impressed that upon you, because that could have been catastrophic, and all those things that you were now experiencing at the hospital, those could have all happened quickly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm curious what your thought is now looking back at that. Is that divine intervention? Do you have a different perspective on why all of a sudden you get a headache? You're not having a heart attack, you're having a headache. You have a doctor that's not just prescribing you medication, they're actually running tests to verify what the cause is and more details. And that doesn't always happen in today's society, in the medical profession. And then you have those things happen, and then somebody who's attentive finding out that those results are potentially, immediately could be catastrophic, and reaching out to you, and you answer the phone when you're in the grocery store. Like, it seems like there's so many different variables that all came together. How do you look at that? And the pastor being able to take you, your wife being able to come, all those different things that happened. How do you put that in perspective now, these 11 years later?
So I think for me, when this happened, it was a real wake-up call, not about my health, but about my faith. Because I believed in God pretty much my entire life. I didn't have some moment where all of a sudden, I now I believe. I didn't believe before. We were sort of raised in a Baptist church. We went to church, Easter and Christmas, and whenever somebody was sick, we went to church because we needed to be prayed for and stuff like that. But I believed in God from a very young age. And so when I was in high school, I had this hippie dude from Calvary Chapel show up, and he started talking to me about Jesus, and like, oh yeah, I know Jesus. He's like, you know Jesus, or you know about Jesus? I'm like, no, I mean, I know who, like, I know about him. Like, he's like, yeah, but you got to know Jesus, man. And the way he talked, I can't do the surfer accent, but like, he was like a hippie surfer dude. I don't even know his name anymore, but like, he was just like, you got to know him. Like, you know, your parents or your brother. Like, it's not about knowing about him. Like, I can tell you all about Abraham Lincoln, but I don't know him. He's like, but you got to actually know Jesus. And so he turned me around, he gave me this tape by a guy named Chuck Smith. And he goes, go listen to this and then come back and talk to me. And it was the book of Ezekiel. And it was like some crazy, like, end time stuff. And I'm like, oh man. Okay. I went back and like, give me another tape. And so he kept giving me these tapes. And pretty soon he went from the stuff that would interest a teenage boy into like real, like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John stuff. And I was, at this point, I'm hooked. And so that's when I really started to give my life to Jesus, but I didn't start to live for Jesus until that happened. When I realized that my life is, I'm dying. Like, whether or not I die today or 50 years from today, I'm dying. And at some point, I'm going to have to stand before God and give an account for my life. And I just realized I had wasted 39 years of my life playing church for the most part, not necessarily living church.
Yeah, that's a big realization to come to that. That's a huge wake-up call. So now let's go back into that moment where you make it through the night. You now get released and have to go, like you said, to the Mayo, right?
Yeah.
And you go and get your tests, and then you get cleared for a transplant. So they realized that it wasn't going to get better. Medication wasn't going to solve it.
Right.
And your option to continue to live was to get a transplant. So what did that look like, that journey, and how long did it take? Kind of walk us through. Share with me what that looked like in your life and in your family. I know it impacted everybody.
Yeah. So the first thing I did was I go to Mayo Clinic, and I went the 31st of December, and then I went like the 2nd and the 4th of January. And then they put you before a board. Now, you don't stand before a board and they make a decision, but they then take your results and they go before a medical board and decide whether or not you're a good candidate for being a transplant patient. And they cleared me pretty quick. And so at that point, I needed to provide either, I had to wait for a cadaver kidney, which is where somebody passes away and they take that organ and give it to you. Or if I had a live donor, I could use a live donor.
Okay.
So my wife was the first one to volunteer to donate, and they told her she couldn't, that because she had to be my caretaker. So at that point, my wife put this thing out on Facebook saying, hey, my husband's pretty sick and needs a kidney transplant. And the response was actually overwhelming as to how many people were praying for us, but then not only that, but that were like, I'll be tested. And a friend of hers at work who had just had a baby said, I will get tested. And we were nearly a perfect match on DNA.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, like they were surprised at how close our DNA matched.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then the process, she had to start going in February. So I was in January. She went in February because I found out at the end of January. They then scheduled her middle of February, and then middle of March, she's cleared to give me a kidney, and then they scheduled my surgery for May 26th of 2015.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it was right around 6 months from the time I was cleared, which was one of the quicker times. Usually it takes a couple of years, and by the grace of God, it happened very quickly for me.
Well, it's amazing you found a donor that was that clear of a match, that was that exact, like you said. That's amazing. And how the procedure ended up happening, it was May 26th, 2015, so just over 10 years ago, 10 and a half years ago.
Yeah.
when we're talking now that this happened. And how did the transplant, the procedure and everything go, the recovery?
Oh, it was good. The transplant took, there was no rejection. Recovery is about 8 weeks. Because they open you up, they give you a pretty good incision to put an organ in. It's pretty wide.
I would think.
So they put in the kidney, and then you're on a lot of medication at first. And then because we were such a close match, the amount of medication that I needed was minimal compared to a lot of people. And it is held strong up until about a year ago. And so now I'm actually going into kidney failure again, which most kidney transplants last anywhere from 9 to 12 years. And I'm at the 11-year mark.
Okay. So what does that look like today? Now, what is that process and what do you have to do to go forward?
So my function now has gone from, I was a year ago at 60. I'm now at 46% as of Friday. As of a week ago Friday. I've dropped to 46%. And what happens from here is we're going to continue to monitor. They're actually trying to slow the progression of the rejection. It is a rejection that's happening, but it's normal for it to reject at this stage. So they're trying to slow that. They've given me a couple of different medications to slow that rejection. And once I get below 20%, at that point, I'll need to do another transplant or dialysis.
So you have the transplant. It goes well. Minimal medications required. And how did things change then, since you'd been dealing with the decline for about 6-7 months during this process? How much did it change once you started getting back on your feet? The transplant was completed, you healed up. What did life look like then?
Once I was healed up, everything was completely different. Like, I could taste again. I could smell again. I felt good. Stuff that, like, I didn't really realize how sick that I was. Even when I look back at pictures from that time, I can see that I was sick. Everybody around me could see that I was sick, but like nobody would really say much to me about it. That's something I don't really understand, but, I just, once I had the transplant, I had this whole new perspective on life, and it was like a new lease on life. I didn't want to waste my life, and I definitely wanted to do fun things, but I also wanted to understand what life meant, what it was for, because I believed in God. And like I said, but then at the same time, it's like, okay, let's dig into this. Let's figure this out. Because if there is a God, which I believe there is, I need to understand what my existence is for. Why do I exist?
Yeah, the age-old question.
Yeah. Well, it was for me, I was like, there's multiple different paths, that are out there, but they can't all lead to the same place because they're completely different. Like, I don't care what anybody says. You can say what you want, that all paths lead to heaven, but that's not what the Bible says, and that's definitely not what the Quran says. And, there's other things. So which one's right? I needed to figure that out for myself. And I had a faith in Jesus, but I didn't want to just have a blind faith. I didn't want to just say, okay, well, this is what my parents believed, so this is what I'm going to believe. And what I found out was, once I dug in and started studying God's word and looking at it, that the evidence for faith is in the Bible. There are, it's unbelievable the amount of prophecies that were written down 400 to 600 years before the birth of Christ that actually told of the day he would be born. Like, literally, if you go look at Daniel chapter 9, the 69 weeks prophecy, it's clear that from the going forth of the command to restore and rebuild Jerusalem till the coming of Messiah would be 69 weeks. And when you break that down, Artaxerxes gave the decree to rebuild and restore Jerusalem. And then on April the 2nd, 32 AD, Christ entered Jerusalem. Like, when you really start to dig in and read the word and study the word, it's amazing. And that's why it makes sense when Christ says, because you did not know this, your day, he held them accountable to know the day he was going to arrive. And that's the thing that sealed it for me, that I was on the right path. When those things were written down ahead of time, it wasn't just blind faith. We know that the book of Daniel was in black and white 400 to 600 years before the birth of Christ.
Mm. So it gave you a basis for your faith, a foundation that you could look at that was solid from your perspective. It was something that you could look at and you could see it. It was spelled out. It wasn't just like someone told you, Vern, you should believe this. You got to see it in black and white yourself.
Exactly. I wanted to work out my salvation. I wanted to know, okay, this is what my parents believed to an extent. I mean, they weren't like diehard, like religious people. And nobody in my family was. I mean, to be honest with you, I come from a very rough family. Like I said, we went to church when people were sick or on holidays because we had to. But I wanted to know, like, okay, if I'm going to worship God, I want to make sure that the God I'm worshiping is God and not something that's not God.
Yeah, that's important. That's life-changing when you change your perspective on what life means and what your purpose is. So it sounds like you found a lot of those things out, and it's a journey, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. Every day, you learn more. You appreciate more. The more time I spend, I become a better father. I can become a better husband. Everything that I do is better when I'm doing it through the power of God versus trying to do things in my own strength. And the kidney transplant basically made me look at everything, and it tested my faith. Because like when we were getting ready to go back for surgery, my donor, the doctor came in and talked to my donor, and I mean, he was with her for a half an hour, and like she was holding my hand. It was really kind of cool. We were next to each other side by side, and she was squeezing my hand, and it was like tight. I could tell she was scared. And then my doctor came in, he goes, okay, he's like, here's what we're going to do. Like, no, mind you, she just got a full workup of what's going to happen. He walks in, he goes, we're going to take a kidney out of her. We're going to put it in you, and you're going to feel better. Do you have any questions? I'm like, no, I think that sums it up.
Yeah.
We're good. But like, I noticed, like, afterwards, Pam's like, were you afraid? And I'm like, I really wasn't. I just knew that everything was going to be okay. I knew that God wasn't done with me yet, that he had a mission for me to do. It sounds like crazy, but like, I knew that the work that God had set before me to do, I hadn't done yet. And it was time for me to start doing that.
Yeah. Change your perspective.
Yeah.
But that was your wake-up call. I mean, that's what you said. You were living differently. You felt guilty. And when you got the call and you got the clearance, it was like, okay, now I regret things I've done. You get another chance.
Yeah.
So that's huge. And you didn't squander it. So for the last 11 years, you've been living, been healthier. You've been able to do some things that are fun. You've studied, you've learned, you've determined what's valuable and important in your life. What would you share with others if they were on a similar struggle or a similar path where they're either going through something or they're coming out of something or something's going to come up? What would be the encouragement you'd give them, wisdom you'd share from what you've learned? What would be those things that you would share with others?
So for me, what I've learned is how important the people around me are and how valuable time is. Like I just had a birthday, and for me to think that I'm 50 years old, it's baffling to me. It doesn't feel like 50 years has gone by of my life. And I don't know if it's just as time goes on, you have a better understanding of time, but like it's slipping away, it feels like, all the time. And so what my encouragement is for people to pour into their families, to pour into their friends, and to develop loving relationships where you strengthen each other. Your Bible talks about as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Make your friendships count. Pour into other people, and then also receive that. Let other people pour into you, and try to encourage each other, and don't focus on the negative that's going on around, because there's so much stuff right now, especially in our time, that's negative. And I think a lot of it's a distraction. Mm-hmm. I want to be focused on what matters. What matters to me is, number one, my eternal soul, and the eternal soul of my loved ones, my wife, my children, my family, my friends, and everybody around me. I want them to know that God loves you. Like, he loves you. He's real. He sent his son to die on the cross, and he rose again 3 days later. And that is what life is about, is getting to know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's a heartfelt cry from someone who's been through a lot of things, and it could have been a lot different for your family and yourself and your loved ones if you wouldn't have had all those things that we talked about before, the intervention with the physicians, and even the donor who had the match that was a friend and coworker, right?
Yeah, coworker of my wife. Yeah, coworker. She hardly even knew me.
And having them be prompted to want to help you, and then you having such a great support group, not only from people that cared about your family and were willing to come up and just step in and help, but you've had a great support group, and I admire that. And I think a lot of people, I think one of the things that we struggle with in our culture is having these kind of conversations, because everything it's always got to be superficial or fun or something that creates an opportunity for somebody to sell something.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna make you unhappy about something in your life so that I can sell you something to make you happy.
Yeah.
Or to make you feel better, or whatever the case may be. It seems like there's always a motive or something that people are using to capitalize on for their own gain. And it's sad to me that we don't just have honest conversations and share real life with people and work through problems and the highs and the lows. And I think that's the human part of us that is longing for that connection that's meaningful, that's not tied to something that's not real, And I appreciate and I commend you on being willing to share your story. You've got so many different things that you've experienced and you've grown from that we all can learn from, myself included. And I know there's so much more that you haven't touched on.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear more about your support system. I know you love your wife. I know that you have an amazing family. You have good friends. Share a bit about that. And then let's talk about your hopes. What do you still want to have happen? And then let's finish with some of the things that you still need that for your health and what's coming, but what it is that you're looking forward to as well in that process. So kind of your hopes.
Yeah.
But if you don't mind touching on some of that, that would be outstanding.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things for me is having time with friends. Like, just on the 13th, we had a group of people over. We played games. We saw no phones. Nobody even had to say, don't bring out your phone. We hung out together. We played games. We ate. It was just a really nice time of fellowship, and it's something that I cherish now, is having time with people. I love to cook for people. And I've got a little smoker set up in the backyard, and I'll smoke up some ribs, and the wife will cook up some mac and cheese, and people come over, we play cards and hang out and just enjoy each other's time. I love it because there's no agenda. All it is just good folks getting together to celebrate life, I guess. I mean, just to have a good time and to break away from the mundane every day. it's something we're actually committing to this year, 2026, is that we want to have people over once a month. We want to, cook for them. We want to just hang out, play games, and just disconnect from everything around us. No TVs, no radio, and just have fellowship with other people. They don't even have to be believers. I mean, most of the people that I know are believers, but like, it doesn't have to be believers. Anybody that wants to come hang out with us can come hang out with us. Everybody's welcome.
It's amazing. So what are your hopes for, that's great, for that opportunity to have those relationships and have fun and build the friendships and continue to share life together. What are some of the hopes you have for your family, for yourself, for the coming years, not just next year?
Yeah. So one of the things that I hope for is that I'm able to live long enough to see my daughter get married and to walk her down the aisle. I would like to, I'd actually like to retire someday and be able to do some traveling with my wife. I've kind of a thing I'd like to do, Jim, is to go hit every baseball stadium in the United States. My wife and I are both huge baseball fans, and I'd like to take a trip, and where we go for a year. Once I finally am able to retire, we go to every single ballpark in the United States and order a hot dog and a beer from every ballpark.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then I just hope that I want to see my kids be successful. I want to do everything I can to pour into them and to strengthen them and to make sure that they're set on a good foundation going forward for their lives.
That's amazing. What are things that you still need, or things that that you're going to face potentially down the road? What are things that would be helpful for you that you could still benefit from, or like that even for people that maybe don't have the same challenge, but just for an educational standpoint, what is something that people could do for you, or that they could even just know and pray for provision if there's something that's coming?
The only thing that I know of right now is that this kidney that I have, it's not gonna last. Like, they're hoping for 3 to 5 years. It could be 6 months. Like, we don't know. Like, at the current rate that it's currently, the rate of diminish. I'm trying to think of the right. Doctors have fancy words for this stuff.
Well, it's declining for sure, but yeah.
The rate of decline, we'll go with that. I am probably going to need a transplant next year at the current rate. So they are working on trying to slow the rate of decline, but that's all in God's hands ultimately. If medication works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So just pray that a suitable donor will be found. I've had several friends that have told me that they would be willing to donate. It's just everything has to match up so that they can. And I just, ask for prayer that my health, everything else stays good. That's the other thing. It's just prayer is really all that I need. Material things God has provided for us. I've got that's support from everybody is good to have. I love that. I just, I don't even really know, Jim. I don't know what I don't know. I know that I will need to have a transplant, and, kind of lost for words right there.
Well, you need a donor, and if someone is open or feels compelled to at least be tested, how would somebody go about even doing that if they had an interest in trying to help you or anyone else that might need it?
So the way that works is whatever clinic you're at, whether it be the Mayo Clinic or whichever particular, the Cleveland Clinic, whoever is doing your particular transplant, once you're cleared, they will ask you for the contact information for somebody that is willing to be tested for that. And so it's kind of good to know their blood type and stuff like that. So if somebody knows their blood type, it's helpful, because like, I'm A positive. I cannot receive a kidney from somebody that's a B or AB. They have to be the same blood type or the universal donor, which is an O.
Okay. So if somebody was interested in helping you or anyone else that might have that same need with a kidney transplant, they could notify their physician, or they could at least ask the questions to see if they're healthy enough, and then find out some of the very simple details of blood types or things that might be imperative to the procedure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a lot to ask somebody to donate a part of their body, put their own life on the line so that you can live. And it's something that somebody needs to really, you need to think about the ramifications. The person that gave me a kidney, if her child needs a kidney, she can't donate. So there's a lot that you have to actually really consider. It's a big commitment, but you could save somebody's life.
Well, if you want to help Vern or anyone else that might need a kidney transplant, or you're interested in finding out more information, click on the QR code in the bottom of the screen, and it'll take you to a site that can give you more information and potentially see if you're a match for Vern or someone else that could really benefit, and you could potentially save someone's life.
It definitely could help other people, because the waiting list for kidneys is, I think there's like over 100,000 people currently that are waiting for a kidney. Yeah. I think it's that number. I know it's way up there. I haven't been really keeping track, since I got mine. Right.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank Vern for joining us today and having this conversation. Thank you for inviting us into your story, Vern, and for sharing from your heart the different things that you have experienced, the things you've learned. I do have a couple quick things just to kind of wrap up, if you're willing.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm intrigued about, and that I kind of have seen over the years as I've gotten older, is there used to be things that we were just kind of, it was considered common sense, or things that we would, words of wisdom from parents, grandparents, the generations before us. I haven't seen some of those things passed on in my lifetime. And especially in the more recent years, it seems like a lot of those sayings aren't really being shared anymore, or those words of wisdom. Do you have any words of wisdom that you would pass on if someone is just looking for something that's like a guiding principle, or something that you've learned in your life that you just hold on to, that helps guide you every day? Yeah, anything like that, words of wisdom that you would share, just if somebody said, Vern, tell me something that's going to make my life better, what would you tell them?
It's something both my dad and my grandfather used to tell me. It's about worry. And the words were, let's see if I can get this correct. Worrying is interest paid on troubles yet earned. And it basically, we don't need to worry about things that haven't happened yet. Just worry about today. Take care of today and don't worry about tomorrow.
Can't fix it. Can't change it. So might as well just let it be what it is. That's good. That's good wisdom. Well, I wanted to thank you for your time and for sharing the story that you shared with us, and the things that you've experienced, the challenges, the good, the bad, the hard, and the beautiful things that you're still looking forward to. And hopefully, if nothing else, someone will connect and know that they also don't have to be alone in their story and whatever's going on. And there are people that care. And if they're also going through health issues or concerns, I hope you really take what Vern said seriously and go get information and get checked out. Go to the physicians, get tested if you need to, but definitely get your health taken care of, because there are people that count on us and count on you and need you. And that's important. And help others. Your story is a lot about helping others. You love your wife. You've done so many things to support her and to show her your love. And she's done the same thing for you. So
absolutely,
I commend you on that, and building a good life with your family and your friends. and the future that you're looking forward to. If anything resonated with you, anybody that's watching this, please share it with those that you care about. And I think that's it. Thank you, my friend.
It's been a pleasure being here, Jim. Thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you for tuning in to The Stories That Bind Us, the show that honors the weight of being human and reminds us that we're not alone in carrying it. On today's episode, we had the pleasure of sitting down with Vern Waters. Cinematography was done by Michael Brown. Editing and narration was done by Jim Martin. The Stories That Bind Us was created and hosted by Jim Lee. We'll see you again next week, and until then, take care of yourself.